What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk. As you can see alongside me, the wonderful Alice talks footy. Nearly 100k, I believe, Alice, on the channel. Must be proud of that.
Yeah, I think we're like 92.7k or something. It's that journey to 100k. I'd love to hit it by the end of 2024, but I think realistically by the end of the season it should be there so I can get that plaque. But it's been a journey, I have to say.
Did you think when you first started off you'd ever get anywhere near that at all?
Not really. I hoped and had like this ambitious hope that like if I keep going at it, maybe I will. But I think like considering I started in late 2019, where we now 5 years down the line,
Yeah.
it's been a long time of growing and learning and stuff, and then lockdown and loads of events and United. But I think I always hoped for 100k, but I don't think I ever actually thought it would probably happen.
Yeah, it's an amazing achievement, and obviously we're at the start of our journey. But even if you say, 5 years, that's 20k a year, that's still like an achievement, so you should be absolutely proud of that. And congrats to you on that for sure. So obviously today we're going to sink our teeth into United's future. We can kind of pivot throughout the show if we need to, but there's a couple of topics I definitely want to talk to you about. Casemiro being one of them, Ten Hag being another, and then there's a couple others. So we'll kick it off with Erik Ten Hag. Where do you stand with him at the moment, this current setup? Because everyone's losing their minds over it. I'm sure you've seen the debates online. I'm sure you've had debates yourself. How long until you lose patience, Alice, with this setup?
You know what? That Liverpool defeat was horrific.
Yeah.
But I have to say, look, we're 3 games into the season. It's quite easy to, I think, be reactionary. I think it's quite easy to see that, think, what is the midfield setup? What is the tactics? We got completely outplayed and be reactionary. But ultimately, look, you can say, we had more shots this time and conceded less XG this time versus Liverpool, but the result was so much worse than the last meetings. I think it's one of those where, for me, I think Ten Hag gets to like sort of November-ish in my mind to show, because that's when you're going to get Euro in a little bit, a bit more of De Ligt, a bit more of Agate, Hoyland and back. For me, I've always said, and I said this when we appointed Ten Hag, because this was before Ineos and everything, I said, I do not trust this ownership. I said, the next manager, for me, I will not turn on him to his third season. I will not judge him for his first and second season. I've stuck with that. There was times last year where I was, having doubts about Ten Hag, but I said, you know what, Ineos are here. They're give him a good summer. We can judge him in his third year. So for me, this is Ten Hag's third season. And this is, where the excuses are going to run out for him if it goes wrong. I like Ten Hag. I want him to succeed. I think we've done some good business, and I don't think we played bad versus Brighton despite the loss. And I actually thought we played all right versus City in the Community Shield. I thought we played all right versus Fulham. I think it's only the Liverpool game where I thought that was crap. And if that Liverpool game is a one-off, then I can believe there'll be progress under Ten Hag. I can believe that we will kick on. But it's just things like his post-match comments talking about Harry Potter. Agate might not play for months.
It does look like he's losing it a little bit in some of the comments.
It's winding me up. For me, you've got to November. It's not even about results. It's just, can you show me that we're going to play a way that's going to get the best out of our players, and we're going to play some good football? And if you show me that, I will back you.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at our fixtures, Alice, when we come back. You would say it's a pretty easy run, right? You've got Southampton away. You've got Barnsley, 20 in the Europa League, is it? I think. And then Palace away, and then Spurs at home. So it's a pretty favourable run. You've got Hoyland and Shaw coming back. You've just touched on Ugarte there as well, who's going to be available for selection. But how much of a difference is that going to make? Because I still think Ugarte coming in, you're coming into a whirlwind of a setup, aren't you? So it's going to take a little bit more to kind of, acclimatise to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, people are hoping for this quick fix, this one player that's just going to come in and turn it all around. And that just doesn't really happen. I mean, maybe lockdown when we signed Bruno, how we just sort of became a new team. But never in the world of football is it one signing that I think completely changes the team unless you've already got something good in place. And we don't have that. Look, I think it will definitely be an improvement on Casemiro. But I said, look, Casemiro's been bad this season, but some of it has been due to the structure. Why, when Casemiro loses the ball, not another midfielder dropping deep to help him. When Casemiro's having to drop deep to get the ball for the centre-backs and be someone and build up, that's not what he's good at. The system doesn't get the best out of Casemiro. The system does, exploit sort of Casemiro's weaknesses. And I think there'll be elements where the system won't 100% get the best out of Agate or, Amrabat last season, or even Maynard when he's played there. So I think that Agate will be improvement because of his legs. And I think the athleticism element of him and him being quite eager to win the ball back But I do think there will still be a few issues there, and it's not going to be like a night and day difference. It's not going to be he's going to change everything. It's going to be you've got to tweak the system. But I think Ugarte coming in is definitely a positive.
Do you think that style is sustainable though? If I said to you right now, I said, do you think United are going to win the Premier League or Champions League within the next 5 years, doing what we're doing, this kind of transitional, direct, proactive football? Can you see a world where that happens? Because I'm struggling to see through the fog at the minute.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm really struggling. I think after that Liverpool game in particular, I'm really struggling. I want the thing is for me, Ten Hag is here in the vision that he's going to win the Premier League in the next 3 seasons. The third season is when he should win the Premier League, like now. So not this season. Next season is challenging properly. This season for me is getting in the top four. Next season is giving them a run in. Third season is can you win it or can you just do an Arsenal where you're that close to winning it? And right now I don't see that. And for me, I think Ten Hag's going to have to change the style of football or change the attempt to do that. Maybe elements of it is down to the players. Of course, I do think, Eriksen and Casemiro, their athleticism compared to like a Gravenberch and McAllister isn't there. I do think this summer we've invested in some technical players, so technical level should go up, but I definitely think we need a technical and athletic midfielder to replace Casemiro and Eriksen. Obviously a left back just for injury issues, probably a left-sided centre back as well, just for the depth there, and probably another winger because Anthony I don't rate, and I like Rashford.
Don't rate Anthony.
Right,
Shock.
don't think anyone does.
No, you're not the only one.
Rashford, I do really rate Rashford, and I get a lot of stick for backing Rashford online, but if he doesn't perform this season, like you're gonna have to think, do we get him out the door? Because it's 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah. Do you have a personal preference? So when you watch, I don't know, someone like Spain in the Euros, for example, the way they play football, pretty attractive, right? Dominating, obviously won the tournament by playing that kind of style. Would you not prefer to see that? Do you have a certain way you would like to see United set up, or are you okay with the counter-attacking, the direct kind of football that you're watching?
I don't mind a sort of direct counter-attacking approach if it's done right. If you look at Klopp's Liverpool, it was a lot more transitional than City and Arsenal, which was a lot more possession based. Like I think that Klopp, and I hate to say this because I hate Liverpool, but I think Liverpool were a better team to watch than City and Arsenal. City and Arsenal were better than Liverpool in terms of their sustainability and all of that, but they were a bit boring with all the systems and all the possession. Whereas Liverpool, if you take away the fact that they are Liverpool, I actually think that Klopp's style was probably the most exciting because it was a bit faster. So I think I saw something from the Mappeteers about something about Ineos wants it to sort of resemble what Klopp did, and that's what I want to see, because that is elements of transition and counter attack, but he's done it with the right level of balance and the right personnel to make it work.
You need legs in there, don't you? I think what you mentioned actually about Eriksen, about Casemiro being in that midfield. I remember a game with Christian Eriksen in the derby, I don't know if you remember this, where De Bruyne and Kyle Walker were just running off him. Oh my God, I was like, he looked like he was in quicksand with Timberlands on. That's how slow he looked. And I still think Casemiro now is very eager to dive into attack. He's very eager to push on. And I don't know if that's coming from the coach or if he's just a bit of a risk taker, do you know what I mean? Because if the coach is instructing him to do that, then how can he take the blame if he's like, that's not my necessarily comfort area, but Ten Hag's telling me to push on, he's telling me to dive in, he's telling me to push on the spaces. I just think he himself needs protecting it a little bit more, and maybe you might actually see Ugarte and Casemiro. Thoughts on that together as a pairing?
Yeah, I saw someone say that on Twitter, how Casemiro sort of looks more like an 8 than a 6 at the moment, because if you go to this season, I think he's created the most I think he's got the highest expected assists out of all our players. He created 2 big chances versus City in the Community Shield. He created a big chance, I think, versus Brighton, and a big chance versus Fulham. Versus Liverpool, obviously, just sort of got ran ragged. I do think when when he gets up the pitch, he does seem to have some kind of influence. So I always think, because he can't do the 6 role and because he can't do the job and build up, maybe a Maino or an Ugarte. And I don't like the fact that Maino would play deeper than Casemiro, but it could be something that maybe work for the benefit of Casemiro, because he's staying, he's not going anywhere. Saudi didn't come in for him, so we've got to work out how to get the best out of him, and that may compromise Maino, which is the only worry about it. But I completely agree with what you're saying.
And if you push Casemiro higher up the pitch and he does lose it, it's not as deadly, is it? If he loses it near the back line where you get 1v1 straight off the bat. So I'd agree with that. Just on the new signings, so Ugarte, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Xerxes. Who else am I missing? That's 4. Your
Go on.
role, obviously, because he's injured. Just completely forgot. But how do you see these bedding in? What are your thoughts? What have you made of him so far? I've particularly been impressed with Mazraoui. I think he's looked incredible. Yeah, well, just your thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, Mazraoui been very impressive so far. I think he got caught out of position a little bit in the Liverpool game, but I think that was tactics. I think Ten Hag was clearly asking the fullbacks to be high. So I don't think Mazraoui's put a foot wrong. Got an assist in the Brighton game, was honestly up there as man of the match in the Fulham game. So he's been impressive. I've been impressed with Xerxes. I know he missed 2 chances versus Liverpool, but I thought when he came on versus Fulham, and I know that he stopped the goal going in versus Brighton, but he couldn't do anything about that. Like I like Xerxes. I like his movement. I think there's a good player in Turks. He's obviously done a very good job for the Netherlands as
I
well.
was going to say that. Did you manage to watch his cameo?
Yeah, what's his
Against Bosnia.
cameo?
It was good, wasn't it? Very good.
Goal assist, looked good. And I wanted us to bring in Xerxes. I said it in February before we even linked to him. I said, if this guy's got a 34 million release clause and we're not giving any service to Højlund, there's no point getting a striker that wants service in the box. Maybe we'll get someone that comes deeper. And I said my 3 options were João Pedro of Brighton, Cunha of Wolves, and Xerxes of Bologna. I said we need to go for one of those 3. So I'm glad that, that's what I said back in February, that we got Xerxes in. I think, there'll be time for him to adapt and just get used to how fast the ball moves in the Premier League. And I'll be honest, like, I actually thought De Ligt was quite good versus Liverpool.
Yeah.
And people will be like, oh, we conceded 3 goals. But I'm thinking, if you look
None
at
of
the 3
them was
goals,
down to him, was there?
Yeah.
Not one of them.
He didn't put a foot wrong. And also, if you look at the tactics, when the midfield lost the ball, they had about 4 players running at our defence, and our defence was exposed because there was no midfielders there to support them. There was such a big gap. I think Martinez could have done better. I think for the Maino goal, maybe he's a bit over aggressive. But I look at De Ligt and I think he didn't do anything wrong because he couldn't have done anything. He was basically hung out to dry. And yeah, I think De Ligt's been decent as well. So I'm just excited to see Euro and obviously a guy, see how they fit in.
I think in actual fact, the newer signings have been better than some of the senior players. So I look at the way Lissandro start. I absolutely adore Lissandro Martinez. Back on my shirt. I love him as a player and everything he brings in terms of personality. But I think he's had a pretty poor start to the season. Diving into tackles, his positional IQ at times is questionable. Obviously Casemiro we've already spoken about. I know you have a thing with Rashford, and I think he's been average. I don't think he's as bad as some of the other players, but I think he's had a pretty average start. So you're looking at all these experienced senior players, and they're the ones who's been underwhelming. Bruno Fernandes as well. I watched him for Portugal the other day, Alice, and I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like, he just ticks. He just gets it. And exactly. He plays so well in their system. And then you look at United, it's like rushed. He's headless chicken pressing everywhere, and you can't get. So I'm worried about the senior players. I actually think that the ones that have come in for the first time, you're looking at recruitment, and you're like, oh my God, De Ligt, started well. Mazraoui started well. You hope Ugarte's going to do the same. So yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed to continue in that development, and we'll see how the senior players crack on. Now, I want to pivot and change gears slightly, if that's okay with you, and I want to go more into like, a creative space, because we discussed at the start, you're very close to 100,000. You've been doing this for quite a bit. There's obviously many topics that you cover as well. But what I really want to know is what gets you out of bed in the morning? Is it transfers? Is it tactics? Is it live streaming? Is it a sense of community? Like, what is it in general that you love doing about this in this space?
I think it's a mixture of, I think, all the things you said. Like, I do like the transfer window. I love the rumours. I play into it. Apart from when you get Frankie de Jong going on for 4 months and he doesn't come.
De Jong, I was devastated. Absolutely devastated about that.
I would have loved him. I love the transfer window. I think my favourite era as a content creator is like August, because you've got the season starting, so the excitement at the beginning of the season, fresh start, although we lose, and then you've got the transfer window going on. August is always my favourite month because there's so much going on. And I think for me, what I like the most is like being like, when I have an opinion on something, being able to just say it and get it out there, and people will agree, people will disagree, but then to have a conversation about that. And I say, I like this signing, why don't we sign him? And I think I love that discussion point, because even if it's just me on a live stream my own, I can discuss with people. So I think for me, I do 50% videos, 50% live streams, I'd say. Sometimes it's a bit more one than the other. And I like to do sort of short videos that get to the point, get the news out, and create for people that just don't want to sit through a live stream. They just want their news in 10 minutes. And then normally in the evenings, I'll do a live show and I'll just talk for half an hour to 45 minutes, depending on the news. And that's what gets me up, the community. And just, I think with United, there's always something to talk about. Sometimes it is just nonsense. Sometimes I will literally say, and to be fair, half the time I make a live stream, I say, look, guys, I think this is probably BS. I think this is probably,
Monitoring,
yeah,
assessing this kind of player. Yeah, you see it all the time, don't
they're,
you?
they're probably using United for clicks. Like, obviously,
Of
there's some
course.
leaks coming out. Casemiro today, and then obviously yesterday I was talking about how it was a disgrace that they were claiming that Ten Hag lost a testimonial match that he
Uh,
won, and changing that. It's just all the discussion points, and normally it is the media line about Man United, or it's like, oh, we're actually signing someone. So I like that bit.
It's weird, though, isn't it? Because you have August, which is insanely busy for transfers and games, and you're trying to stay on top of everything, and you literally got no time to yourself. And then when September hits, we're in an international break now, and you're kind of looking about, and you're like, what the fuck do we talk about? You're looking at stories from Rabiot that's coming off, and you're like, how on earth are we still talking about Rabiot? Like last season, you had his moment and all that you're in, or whenever it was, I can't remember specifically. But yeah, the nonsense stories, unfortunately or fortunately, with some people like it, are a part of it, aren't they? I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was talking about Rabiot on my live show today because there's been 5, 6 reports, and I said, look, I'll talk about it. It's the news. In the international break, you do have to scrape the barrel for news a little bit. And I
Yes.
said, there's always stories coming out like Mason Mount isn't selling enough shirts, or, Hoyland's got a nickname behind the scenes from someone like Luckhurst coming out. It's always Luckhurst coming out with some
Always
crap story.
negative guy,
I,
honestly.
honestly, international breaks and Luckhurst, something about Hoyland, something about Mount
Hmm.
every time. But I think with the Rabiot, I always just say, look, this is what's been said. Maybe if he lowers his wages, United could look at it because of limitations in midfield. But I said this for 3 months. I think Rabiot was using United to get himself better wages or a better deal elsewhere. Like,
Mm.
I don't see it happening because unless Romano or someone that is reliable is like, yeah, United are now opening talks with Rabiot and progressing with a move. I always say, look, this is what's been said. But let's be honest, I think we're being used.
Do you rate him as a player, though? Because I look at Rabiot, I watch him perform for France, and I'm like, there is a player in there 100%. Left-footed, for a fact, Erik Ten Hag likes him, he'll bring that balance, but I'm just not sure if he's happy to be, Kobe is the main guy, and then he rotates with him. That's my question about the whole transfer.
Yeah, I think mine with Rabiot isn't really ability-wise. It's just like mentality.
Mm.
He coming to United for the wages. Is he going to be another player that's sort of we can't get rid of if it goes wrong? I think his mum seems like just annoying, and I think he's one of those that seems like he wants wages, and I just feel like it's not. I don't know. There's something about him that's a bit of a red flag. Like ability-wise, I take him because I think we're a little bit thin in, the 8 position, particularly with Mount's injuries. But there's definitely red flags around him, like mentally.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that. I don't think the deal's going to be done, but it's just something, like you said, to talk about in it. Right, we're going to move on to an interactive section. So it's okay with you, Alice. I'm going to go through a list of players, mainly senior players at the club. You just tell me if you think they're overrated or underrated, okay? And I'm going to have a discussion on him based on, obviously, whatever it is you say. So, the first one's interesting. I always go to say Amadou Onana. Andre Onana. Thoughts?
It's a difficult one because he started last season so badly. Everyone was like, he's trash, he's rubbish.
The
He ended up,
Galatasaray game, Alice. Oh, my
oh,
Lord. The mistakes in that.
honestly, once we got knocked out of the Champions League, I thought it was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Like Manchester City, some big Premier League games, he was quite good. So then he became underrated. Now, I haven't been impressed with him so far this season, but I would probably say he seems quite fairly rated because I think he went from being a bit overrated to then him making a few mistakes, nobody rating him. But I actually think season-wise, he definitely had one of the most underrated seasons last year.
Okay.
So this year, he's not. First 3 games haven't been impressed, but last season, I think it almost became underrated because of how much negativity he got. When he did things right, no one spoke about it. They kept speaking about what he did wrong.
I think there's question marks on him for me personally. It's kind of unorthodox style of saving. Sometimes like the Liverpool game, the third goal that went in, and he's like near the left side post. You're like, what on earth are you doing there? The position is just well off. So there's still some question marks for me in terms of mistakes going forward. But I think I agree with the sentiment. Last season, the second half, he was decent. Delo.
Oh, definitely underrated. I mean,
Yeah.
how he wasn't in talks for right back, when we
Mm.
were talking, I've seen so many podcasts where they're talking who was the best right back last season. Ben White, Ben White, Ben White. A couple of people saying Malo Gusto. How Diogo Dalot was not in
Player of the
any of
season.
those. Like literally, our player of the season was actually consistent, which is something we haven't seen him for a while. Like I love Bruno, but Bruno was really good for 3 months and really crap for about 4 months last season. Whereas Dalot seems consistency. So for me, he's probably our most underrated player.
Yeah, agreed. Majority we've already touched on, so we skip past that. Harry Maguire.
It's a weird one because I think like he is underrated in a weird sense because he's got a negative perception online.
Yes,
But
I agree.
I've always said Maguire's better than Lindelof. But I think there was a period where people believed that Lindelof was better than Maguire. And there was a period where, look, Maguire was not good enough for United. And I think the 80 million price tag does not help him one bit. Like, as a player, we've seen him play well for England. We've seen him play well for United. Like, when he played last season, he was all right. Like, he's not an 80 million pound player. But, like, if you look at 80 million in Anthony and you look at 80 million in Maguire, Maguire's given us 10 times more than Anthony will. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that while I think that, yeah, maybe I would sell Maguire this summer, but I didn't mind him staying. I wanted to sell Lindelof. And I think that ultimately he is our third best centre back. I think he is underrated because people just make out that he's absolutely useless online. And he's an alright centre back. He was not an 80 million player, but he definitely can do the job.
I think he's an inspiration, Alice, for even academy players that are coming up, because the amount of abuse that he got online, didn't say a single word about it, just, went through the trenches with it, dealt with it, came back, and then actually became one of our really important players last season, playing through injury, missed the Euros because of it, missed the FA Cup final because of it, and still, you didn't hear a peep out of him. So in terms of that, I really highly respect him because of that. Like, I admired that from his perspective. And I think a little bit underrated at the moment, currently, from people, because he does do a good job for us. So I'd put him in the underrated category. Lisandro Martinez.
It's a difficult one because he was unbelievable at Copa America. Him and Romero were unreal. And, if we look at what Lisandro Martinez did before his big injury in his first season, and you look at what Lisandro Martinez did at Copa America, and you think that guy's elite. But you look at FA Cup final, great. If you look at him in the first 3 games of this season, as you said, it's not been good enough. He had an amazing Copa America. I always think if we're going off now, you could say maybe a little bit overrated. Because we keep talking about how it's going to be so much better when Martinez is back, and he's back and it's not better. Obviously, he's got to get used to playing with De Ligt and stuff like that. And I know how good he is because I watched him in Copa America, so I don't like to call him overrated because he was good in Copa America and he was unreal in his first season pre-injury. But I think he's become a little bit overrated because we keep talking about how Lisandro Martinez is the saviour when he comes back, and I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Luke Shaw.
So this is a difficult one because this could sound crazy. I think fully fit Luke Shaw, there's not a left back I'd take over him in world football.
I think it's top 5 for sure. I'd agree with top 5.
Like, I think definitely top 5. There's no one I'm like, I would replace Luke Shaw for a heartbeat if someone said Luke Shaw could stay fit.
Fully fit, consistent, on his game. He's top 3, top 5, easy.
Luke Shaw on form, I think he's great, but so inconsistent and everything. And I wouldn't say he's overrated because I think, again, like Maguire, people give him a lot of stick online, not to the level of Maguire. I think because he's injured, people play it down. It's like Reece James, everyone knows Reece James' quality, but because he's injured, it's the forgotten man. So I think Luke Shaw's in that sense, but I'd probably say he's quite fairly rated because some people overrate him, probably like me, and some people probably underrate him and think he's trash even when he was playing well. He was one of those players that, like, when he was playing well for us, there's still people in the fan base that wanted him out and wanted him gone.
I know exactly what you're on about, but yeah. With Shaw, just a throwaway question, and we'll go back to the underrated, overrated. Do you have faith in him for this season, or have you kind of cut ties?
Ability-wise, faith. For his hamstrings, I'm not sure. He, went to the Euros, got injured, maybe because he rushed back for the Euros, who knows. I'm going to be honest, I'm very sceptical about the season because of his injuries. I'm very 50-50 because I think Malacia being injured last year meant that when Shaw was injured, we had to rush him back because Malacia was out the whole season. And I think with Malacia still injured, are we going to be rushing him back? Because Mazraoui's fit now, but he doesn't have a good injury record.
Yep.
I think there's elements of, if I knew that Mazraoui, Dalot and Malacia were going to stay fit, I think if Luke Shaw was injured, we wouldn't rush him back. So then he would come back for a longer period. I think a lot of it is maybe on his fitness and his legs. I don't know.
I just had a flashback then of Amrabat, Lindelof playing at left back, and I'm like, please, never, ever have that again. Even when Lindelof, I remember under Ragnick, I don't know if you remember this yourself, against Atletico Madrid, I think it was, Lindelof at right back. And that was the first time I saw him there. And I was like, please stop playing him there. And they're talking about him being covered there now because we've got quite a few centre-backs, and I can't
Never,
deal with that going forward.
never
So
again.
yeah, I'm struggling with Shaw at the minute because I just don't see him ever being fit. And I think if it's great for all his ability, but if he's not going to be available, then what's the point in that sense? So let's move on to the midfield. Casemiro. I think we can universally agree on this.
It's cool because I think everyone knows he's been crap for a year now, so everyone thinks he's crap. So is he underrated? But like, is he was he overrated when we first signed him, and is he underrated now?
I don't know, because his first season was amazing, wasn't it? I thought he was player of the season. And then last season, I don't know what happened. It just complete capitulation. So I don't know actually if you can call him overrated because no one's rating him at all.
That's the thing. It's like he probably is overrated, but actually no one rates him now. So is he overrated? Like, he's almost like everyone's like, he's just washed. It's almost like everyone feels sorry for him now. His legs are gone. It's like there's no underrated bit about it. It's just, oh yeah, he's done.
Will there ever be a revival with him, or in your mind, completely done?
I think potentially. I just don't know how he can drop off from his first season to second season that badly, and I think the change in tactics hasn't helped. I think if you can change the tactics and find a role for him further up, potentially. But I do think Premier League's such an intense league that had he been maybe in somewhere like Serie A, maybe he'd be a bit better for him.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Right, we'll shift through some of these. Mason Mount, and I hope you say the right answer here.
I think underrated because there's a very negative perception of him online.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's not done enough for me on the ball, but he does so much off the ball. And I think players that contribute a lot off the ball are often underrated because people don't see that as much. Like, I think that when we've taken him off, we've almost got worse, but we've also needed to take him off because when we put him on, we lose a striker or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, we had Mason Mount on the pitch first half versus Brighton. I thought we played really good football the first half versus Brighton, and I think we were unlucky to go 1-0 down in the first half versus Brighton. And then when Mason Mount came off, I felt the structure in the pressing wasn't as good up top, but we also needed a striker up top and Xerxes' presence because Mason Mount isn't a striker, Bruno isn't a striker, so we lost that box presence of a striker. It's almost like if you could have 12 players, I think Mason Mount works really well. But it's like, where does he fit in? But I think, people call him like useless and stuff online, and I think actually he's been injured. When he has played, he's done well and he definitely improves the team. So I think because of the perception, I'd say underrated, but he still hasn't done quite enough for me.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I actually like Mason Mount. I like his application of the ball. I think he's an important cog in any system. But I just think you need to get the right players around him. And again, it's another one. You could put in the Luke Shaw category, I suppose, because he's injured again, out 5 weeks. So God knows what's going to happen. Kobbie Mainoo?
I'm probably going to say overrated by United fans, but underrated by rivals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, and I don't even think he's overrated by United fans, but I think rivals definitely underrate him because they're like, oh yeah, Adam Wharton is clear. And like you watched Adam Wharton play one game and you've decided he's better than Maynard because you don't like United. Let's be honest. Like comparing him to Harvey Elliott, comparing to Adam Wharton, I think he's underrated by rivals because the minute he makes a mistake, even if it's a good game, they will like clip that and they obsess over it. I wouldn't want to say he's overrated by United fans, because what he did at 18, 19 years of age last season is ridiculous.
Within 8 months as well, by the way.
Yeah. 8 months to be starting in a Euros final to, fairly take Gallagher's place. And I think the fact that he came into an unstable United environment where our most experienced player, Casemiro, could not do it. He took Casemiro's 6th role when he was out injured. He's not a 6. He's always been an 8. He came in out of position in a role that has been mission impossible for anyone that's played there, in this really difficult role. And the job he done at 18 years of age, the composure he showed, the mental strength as well, was unreal. And I think, I don't want to say he was overrated by United players, but maybe we do overrate him because that's what
he's one of ours, isn't it? Yeah, he's one of ours. Like I have no shame in that whatsoever.
But I think the role he did was amazing, and I think he got the hype he deserves. Like, I know we overrate youngsters, but I think when you look at the circumstance, he gets the hype he deserves from us fairly. I think from rivals, underrated.
Yeah, there's quite a few views in the chat, so do join along with this. We've got a few more players to go through. Smash like on the video for us as well, if you can be so kind. Bruno Fernandes.
You know what? I'm going to say criminally underrated. And the reason I'm going to say that is I see a lot of Man United fans online want Bruno gone, but are mad Sancho's left. How can you want Sancho to stay
I don't
and Bruno to go?
I I really don't
Like,
get this Sancho narrative. I don't understand it at all.
Sancho was so good at Dortmund. So you want
Yeah.
Sancho to stay because he was good at Dortmund over 3 years ago.
Mm.
But Bruno, who's probably been our best player post Alex Ferguson, that
Yep.
has been hot and cold, but he's probably the only player that you can say is borderline world class in our squad right now. You want gone because he doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing as Sancho did 3 years ago. I can't get my head around a large portion of this fan base that do not rate Bruno but wants Sancho to stay. I don't get where it's from. So for me, look, I don't think Bruno's had an impressive start to the season. But and I think you were touching upon this earlier, I don't think Ten Hag gets the best out of him, if I'm going to be honest. I think the player's unbelievable. We've seen it for Portugal. We've seen it under Ollie. We've seen periods of it under Ten Hag. I think as a player, I think he's phenomenal. I really do. And I think he is our best player. And I think because he's part of this unsustainable United structure and unsustainable United system, he gets underrated for it. I think first season, the goals and assists may be overrated. But I think as his goals and assists have dropped off and he's just been part of a sort of an unsustainable system, people don't realise how screwed we'd be without him because he's always available.
The right captain for you?
Yeah, I'd say when you look at the squad, there's no one that really sticks out more than him. Like I think mentally McTominay had it, but I think ability-wise, there was always questions he wasn't going to start. So I think Bruno's right to be captain because I look at how he can speak multiple languages, can speak with every player. I think he speaks like 5 languages, but also I always see Bruno, you see him talking to the 16, 17-year-olds, you see him talking to the Tom Heatons. He seems to be a social guy that connects with everyone. And I think, he whinges this and that, but I think when you look at his communication elite, I think he's probably the right captain.
I'm going to answer this one for us. Ahmad is criminally underrated, and I won't accept anything else. I think Ahmad is going to be a top player this season.
Agree? I agree. I absolutely agree. I think, I watched bits of him at Sunderland because I do like the Championship, and he was brilliant. I don't know how, like when Forson and Anthony were playing over him last season, I that almost made me Ten Hag out. I can't lie. I said I wasn't going to be Ten Hag out until his 3rd season, but I wanted to be Ten Hag out when, particularly Forson, man. Like I don't know what it was that. I just think, there'll be elements of his inconsistency, but I think we're a better team when he plays. I really do.
Yeah, agreed. Hopefully a big season in store for him. Garnacho.
Do you know what's funny is I was on United View yesterday and there was loads of comments in the live chat.
I watched.
Saying Garnacho's trash and this and that. And I'm saying, what are we doing? And I think KG mentioned it. We hype up our youngsters. The minute they have a few bad games, we trash on them.
Yeah.
Oh, they're rubbish. And I think, again, with Garnacho, just turned 20, ran to the ground last season. I think he started 35 games in a row. No 19-year-old should be starting 35 games in a row, but he had
to. America as well on top of that.
America as well.
Yeah.
He had to. The reason he had to start 35 games in a row is because the first team weren't performing, Anthony weren't performing, and we had all those injuries. That's why he started 35 games in a row. He's someone that you want to mould into the squad like Fergie did with Ronaldo. But I think he got the 2nd most goal contributions for any teenager in Europe's top 5 leagues. He ranked 1st for like progressive carries, sort of dribbles over distance, all of that. I looked at Garnacho and I said, you know what? When you look at his age, when you look at the circumstances that he gets no support in that wing role, Erik Ten Hag, and this is the one element I'll defend Rashford on as well, but Rashford was not good enough last season, is those wingers are almost sometimes in Ten Hag's system asked to produce something out of nothing, take on 3 players and score a wonder goal. They don't have the luxury that, a Saka or a Doku or a Savinho would get in those systems. They're isolated. So I think for me, Garnacho's underrated because I think that like a lot of our fan base are like, nah, he's not good enough. He's just turned 20. He's going to have good games, he's going to have bad games, he's going to be inconsistent. But I think when you look what he's done at his age, there's a reason why I think he's probably going to rank 3rd in the young, I don't know what it's called, the Copper Trophy, the young Ballon d'Or after like Lamine Yamal and Endrick, I think. I think he's a better player than Endrick. I think Endrick got the Real Madrid tax, if I'm going to be honest.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with that. I think you make a great point, actually, about when you touched on Arsenal there, because you look at Ødegaard, Saka and Ben White on that right-hand side, the rotations they have and what they do for each other. And even under Klopp, you can look at Trent, Mo Salah and then Henderson as well, the rotations they had. And our wingers have never had that, for as long as I can remember, at least. So, yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. Last couple of ones, Rashford.
This is the difficult one, because not been good enough. He's really not been good enough. But our fan base, he is the scapegoat now. He's what Maguire was. He is the scapegoat. And I think if we drop Rashford and we have Garnacho and Amad on the wings, that's fine. But I don't think it's going to make a massive difference to our season. I think people have convinced themselves Rashford is the issue. You drop him, you put Garnacho on the left, Amad on the right, and we're going to be 10 times better. You know, we dropped De Gea, did we get 10 times better? No. We dropped Maguire, did we get 10 times better when he was the problem? No. We don't have McFred, we have a different midfield. Are we better? No. I think we have this thing where we think, oh, it's McTominay, oh, it's David De Gea, oh, it's Ronaldo, oh, it's Pogba, oh, it's Fred, oh, it's Maguire. And I think Rashford is that new one. So I think I don't think he's underrated at all because he has been bad. But I think no one rates him at the moment. That you can't call him overrated because I almost think our fan base is underrating his ability a little bit because he's now at blame for everything. But it's like, would you rather Rashford play or Anthony play?
Yeah.
Rashford is better. Rashford hasn't been good enough. Pre-season, he looked all right. You got 40-something goal contributions in Ten Hag's first season. You can't, like, that's Vinicius Junior's favourite to win the Ballon d'Or. You got 35 goal contributions last season in an insane Real Madrid side. Rashford got more goal contributions and non-penalty goal contributions in Ten Hag's first season in a much worse side, doing it himself. So I think that there's a good player in Rashford, but it's just how bad he's been for a year. It's just the inconsistency that frustrates me. But to call him overrated would be unfair, but he's not underrated.
The other thing I don't understand as well is these videos that he's putting up, the training videos, and people are moaning about that kind of stuff. It's like, is it really that deep that he's putting it out there that he's working hard? He's probably really emotional about the club, so he's trying to give the fans something to say. Look, I'm trying, I'm working hard, I'm trying to get back into this, the form that you guys know me. I don't know. It's different. You can go to multiple different fans. Some will say he's overrated. Some will say he's underrated. I'm in between with him at the minute. I'm kind of torn with it. But I do hope he brings it back. For the last two, I'm just going to leave it on one question. Who would you rather start, Xerxes or Højlund, systematically going forward?
I think with Amad finally playing, a winger that creates, I would go with Højlund. I think the dynamic of... I think I like Garnacho and I like Rashford, but they like to sort of cut in and shoot. I think with Amad being someone that will create for our striker, and I also think because Xerxes drops deep, he gets into sort of Bruno's space a little bit. I would probably say Højlund. Yeah. I love them both.
Yeah, I agree. I look at the game, the couple of chances Xerxes had against Liverpool, I'm like, if Højlund's there, I think potentially does finish them. He's more of an out-and-out striker, but I do think Xerxes will still have an important season as well. Just to end on now, I'm just going to go through just a couple of comments. What's the testimonial match? Is it important? Don't know why they've asked that. That's fine. See if there's any questions for you, just very quickly before we head off. Loads of comments, but no questions. What's going on? People just talking amongst themselves. Right, that's fine. We can leave it at that then, because I know you rush your time yourself, Alice. So we'll park it at that. Any plans this week for your channel?
Just videos in the morning, live streams in the evening, just covering whatever news comes out throughout this international break. Normally, nonsense written by Luckhurst, but we'll see what comes out. I think there's a few interesting stuff from the Muppeteers and what we could be doing next year, which I think is exciting because they, it's quite early days, but they do know what they're talking about. So
yeah, we had James on actually the other week, and there was that whole back and forth. I think I don't know if you saw it with Goldbridge online about the McTominay story and Ugarte. That Ten Hag wanted to keep hold of McTominay, but he weren't too sure on Ugarte, and it was a back and forth apparently with him and Ineos, and it became like a whole thing. So, yeah, interesting times. But what are you doing for the game as well, just quickly?
Southampton, I'll probably do a watch-along for that game. Awesome. Just please.
I know, because if we lose that game or draw that game, I don't know how much longer I can deal with this season, because they haven't had a sniff all season, Southampton. So if we go away there and we struggle, it's really going to start getting dark. Yeah. We'll lose our minds together. It's fine. Right. Thank you very much, Alice, for coming on. I appreciate it. I know you've been very busy today and you've still taken time out of your day to come and chat with us. So, yeah, anyone who's watching, whether it's the members, whether it's just usual guys, make sure you check Alice out on her channel. Go ahead and follow, drop some comments, leave likes on there and subscribe. And check her out on socials. Where can they find you, Alice?
Just type Alice Talks Football into TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and you'll find me up on all of those. Thank you for having me on, and make sure you smash the likes.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Take it easy.